Hello, Dr. Mike here for my CIS-2808 Introduction to Computer Forensics, and this will be topic 10 at the time of this recording. This is on file analysis concepts, and also this lab and week 10 normally in a 16-week course. We look at autopsy, so I'm going to touch upon autopsy a little bit. Actually, I'm going to show you how to use it, and we're going to use it actually in part of the file analysis process. So I'm just going to combine the two here. So you have two separate labs actually, and I'm not going to go into every detail of an autopsy. I'll show you why, because the lab will walk you through that. This is in conjunction with our textbook, which is the open source tools book, and there's a chapter 8, file analysis concepts. Pretty good chapter. And we're actually going to come back and we're going to touch upon different parts of this throughout the course too, several times. But as you can imagine, file analysis is definitely probably one of the main areas. Specifically, we're looking at things like identification of content. I'll show you a sample of that is. I'm not going to walk through this whole book with you here, but I'll give you an example of that, or how you might be able to use that. Metadata extraction. You actually have a different lab for this. I'm going to also give you an example of that. There's a lot of tools for this. I'm going to go and use the image tool. Actually, not the image tool, the EXIF data for JPEG. So I'll give you a sample of that. No surprise, hopefully you've heard it before. There's a lot of information packed into a digital camera, packs information into a digital image besides just the image itself. So we'll look at that. But yeah, this chapter goes into the different things you can look for on different types of files. Again, this is going to go back to what evidence you're looking for. There might not be any reason to look at MPEG-4 audio files, MP4s, MP5s, ASF files. If you're looking for malware analysis, or you're looking at fraud, possible fraud. Fraudulent work, things like that. We might be looking for ledger files or stolen information. So again, there's ways to extract and look at different parts of the different files you can find. And so this chapter is pretty good about that. So again, we're going to come back to this chapter again later. In fact, I know when we come back later in chapter, next week's topic, next topic, topic 11 on images, we talk about it there. And also we'll come back again in week 15 on documents and archives. So we will touch upon this chapter a few times. But in any case, we will talk about at least the main part, which is file analysis concepts and identification. So I have a copy of DefTer open. I will use with some sample files I've gotten online, which I've used in a previous video. But autopsy. So the lab's going to walk you through how to attach, in this case, E01 files, image files. Autopsy can accept these files along with DD files and so on. It can identify the partition type. It might ask you to choose what partition type it is. So I've gone through this process with some files that I have already downloaded. They're ext format. So this is a bootable test image of a bootable USB stick that was used to collect evidence for. So you've probably seen this before in other videos. You'll see it again here, in this case, but in the confines of autopsy. So I'm not going to walk through how to go through and attach. I went through this. Actually, I go through a couple of times. I chose the wrong one. I chose RAW, and it actually was an ext image. I chose the wrong file, also the wrong file to look at, because it was split files into different files. In some cases, you might see a different partition. In an example here, C and D partitions have separate E01 files. So, but again, I'm going to get to this point here now. The lab will take you off and look at the master file table for NTFS, which is a great exercise. But we're going to stop and let's look at actual file extraction. So again, the biggest part about having some sort of tool that allows you to browse or search through an image. Again, this would be a forensics image that's validated with a hash. We can see here I've attached the file itself. Again, you'll see that in the lab how to do this. In this case, you can see here CD-ROM, Etsy, Home, and so on, rootfs, var. So again, this is a Linux Ubuntu system. And of course, I'm going to barrel down here. I'm going to go into Home, Ubuntu directory. And you have sort of a file browsing window down here. And there's some options that can happen when you click on the file. So in this example, let's look at bash history, which by the way is a great thing to look at. This is a text file, so pretty straightforward. You get a nice basic text report here. You can display hexadecimal if need be, and we'll come back to that in a second. But off the bat, this is a text file. And by the way, bash history is great. You can see what people have typed in their bash shell. So in this case, there's a wget here that could be interesting as a speech for a metadata file. They mounted something here. Did some find, looking for some find for rooters or root, some cache work, and so on. So again, this is like a log file in a way. Bash history, default for bash shells, has information you might be able to collect. So we could extract this. We can export it here. There's ASCII information. You can actually open a report on it. It's going to give more information about metadata, about the file itself, including access times, modified times, and so on, and the file content. So nice thing here with the report, you can export these little sub-reports from Autopsy. Of course, we could add a note to this and so on. All right, so I'm not going to go into all these aspects here, but we're going to go more into browsing different parts here. So let's go ahead and go down and look at something called file signature table. So let's look at documents, and we can see there's the documents here, and we see this is a deleted file column. Has this been deleted or not? In this case, someone has deleted a file called product grant infra exchange matrix XLS. So this does have a file size to it. Some things might have not show links for because they're 0 byte size, but there's nothing to show. In this case, this is a document, is valid, but it has actually been marked as deleted. So if I click on it here, I get just this sort of, it's a binary file. So we can do a hex display on it. Now, right off the bat, it says product grants infra exchange matrix.xls. So it's an Excel file. But if there was no file indicator and there was no file extension, it'll say this is just called extract or info. That's it. And that's not uncommon at all, especially on Linux, to have that. We see here the first 4 to 5 bytes is called the file signature. So you'll find that here. This is a SANS Institute reference PDF, which I probably linked in the, I'm sure I might have this linked somewhere in our course material. If not, it's SANS Institute hex file array headers and regex for forensics cheat sheet. So SANS Institute cheat sheets, fantastic resources. You can see here, we can go through, we can see some of the most common file types. It's like Word, for example, D0CF110E0. So it actually almost starts off with the same one, same file signature. But you can see here, here's Excel, D0CF11E0, D0CF11E0. So this is probably an Excel file. So if you're not sure, if it doesn't show up on this cheat sheet here, you can also do it in a file signature lookup. In this case, filesignatures.net. You can search for extensions or search for signature. So let's close this tab here. So D0CF, I start typing D0, oh look at that, CF11A0. Actually, I got more than the first 4 to 5 bytes there. There's actually more of it. Submit that though. And we see it is either an ADP file on AC_MSIDB. It's either .doc or .xls. So you could really just open this with a file viewer, or just take it and manually extract it and put a .xls or .doc on it and see if it opens in that app. So in this case, again, we already have this. Again, the textbook's going to talk about this here, content identification, and as well as you can find these different OSs have different ways to sort of store this, that file header, and it's used for the GUI a lot of times. So if a file receives it, it goes, oh, I know to open this .text in a notepad, in my notepad, or .xls, in this case maybe Open Office or Excel. So it helps the OS identify what file to open what app with. I'm sorry, what app opens what file, and so on. So I guess it's not uncommon for people to rename from .xls maybe to .jpeg, and or in this case maybe it's a JPEG file. Maybe it could be child porn. They rename it to .doc. And there's apps, and we'll see in file carving. There's apps that will identify misnamed extensions, so it's easily caught by most forensics tools. So, in any case, we see this file here. We go, well, it was deleted. Is it still available? Let's see if we can export it. So I will save this file, and I have an evidence folder here, and we'll save it here, and there it is. So again, you can see since it has the extension, it's fine. I don't need to do this. And you've probably seen this before. I've used this in previous examples, I think used in depth. Here we have, zoom in a little bit here. Maybe this is grant administration exchange information. I don't know, maybe this is important information, or this is our evidence that we want to find. Maybe this is sensitive documents that we're not supposed to be given to this individual, or they were stolen. So by the individual who owned this thumb drive. So part of metadata too, and you'll see this with one of the lab assignments, is just to go actually look at the metadata from the file itself, like document properties, parts of the document. So who is the creator of it? Who owns it? The publisher. In this case, Minor Corporation, Paul Hagen. Paul Hagen. So it's an Excel file. When was the creation date? So we have information we can extract from the file itself through the app. So there are ways also to extract files and information from images. I'll show you in a second. But that's one example of how we can use. You can browse around here. We can use, in this case, Autopsy to browse for documents from an individual. So again, I browsed up too far here. We got here, what we at? Oh yeah, Home Ubuntu. So again, there's hidden information here. Mozilla, so we could probably go in and get Firefox. And here we can look for bookmarks, .dbs. So SQLites if we want. Cookie SQLites, and so on. So we can download these SQLite files, places, sessions, search SQLite. So again, not too much to see here. We can display hex if we want. We can export it. Save it here. See, that opens with SQLite. Do I have SQLite viewer here? Let's see. Anyways, if I have a SQLite viewer, deft analysis, SQLite browser, and there we go. So now we can actually look at our database structure. In this case, this is not really good. This is just a search. There's no search has been done. It looks like it's empty. But we can actually go back and look at other ones. Places.SQLite. Again, let's export this one. Save file here. And here we go. There we go. Browse data, bookmarks, boots, input history, keywords, places. There we go. So now we can actually extract this file. This is extracted from our evidence, so we now have a copy of it, and we can see the places this person went. FDA, whitehouse.gov, and so on. So again, there's ways to extract information. We can note it here too. We can add notes. Add a note here if we want. You know, alert, and so on. So we can add notes to our findings here and so on. So again, just a real quick example. I'm taking this off the track where the lab's going to have you look at the master file table again, which is a great start for NTFS. But we're going to just dive in, look right at files itself. So a couple of examples here. We already did this already. We already extracted evidence here. Let's look at evidence we can get from bulk extractors. So this is bulk extractor. This is just talked about in the chapter. This thing is sort of really just an extraction tool, that sort of a lower level tool than what we see here with Autopsy. So I pointed bulk extractor at this case. I went through each one individually. This is number 3. So this is the same file as our USB file here, and I extracted to a folder. In this case, root evidence. And extractor, this has a lot of built-in scanners, sort of parsers and scanners, and you can actually do some general stuff. You can do alert lists, stop lists. You can do all kinds of regex findings. But you can see here it looks for EXIF, email, net, PDFs, and so on, zip files, and so on. So I already started. It ran took about maybe 2 minutes to run. When it was done, it gave me this extract. I double-clicked on it, and now I can see its findings. In this case, I can see there's a zip file that was found. In the zip file, I can find, well, there's certain files inside there. There was a TIC planning guidance.pdf, and so on. URL, you see the URLs again. We saw this. This is probably extracted from, could be from browsers. However, this also will extract URLs from emails and just from web pages that have been visited. So same with telephone. I know telephone history. You look at this, you think, wow, it's been that's TCP history, telephone.txt. You think, how do I get telephone numbers? Well, it has a search finder. It's a regex search finder. It searches through all these text files and finds anything that matches this pattern. Now again, a lot of this could be just phone numbers you see on web pages. Could be phone numbers that were sent in an email. Could be important though. Could be an email to someone we don't know, but maybe the phone number is attached. So bulk extractor is pretty cool tool. Excuse me. And we can see emails and so on. But again, you can't. It's going to extract everything, so there's a lot of noise. In this case, look at this. I can look at Ubuntu stuff. We look at anything with Gmail, for example. We think maybe Gmail is a big thing. We say, wow, who's this Marco at Gmail? 125 things to him. Well, we won't know this, but this is actually all the packages in the OS might have man pages, have log information, people to contact in case this is a MetaCity manager window. This is the contact email for the developer. So there's a lot of noise. So just FYI, but it is a great tool you can use for extracting information from all kinds of files, specifically like the E01 files. So last thing I'll show you here is images. And then we're going to talk about we will talk about images here again. But for example, here's an image of yours truly, and maybe we'll call it, this is our suspect, but who's this person? Must be the boss, right? Called a hat, let's say. In real life, that's my boss, right? So where's the image taken? Does this show an association? So we have an image file here. So we have EXIF tool. We can run this tool. This will extract the image data from an image. Now, not all images are going to have this, but this is a fantastic tool to run against it. This is a command line tool, and it did. Wow, look at that. So first off, I ran it, and we see the file name and tool version number, file name. It's important maybe you have to make sure you have this information. What version you use to extract data, so it can go in your notes, because a year from now, this tool can be updated 3 or 4 times. It could be questions. Well, maybe there was a bug in that tool. So again, you want to make sure you know everything about the tool you used. But again, we have standard information here, file information, the GIF version. Here we go. Camera information. There's an Apple iPhone 7 Plus. What software was it running? The modified date, ISO information. I mean, just, there was a front camera. In fact, we were northwest, longitude, northwest, above sea level. You can get GPS information, and actually that's further down here. We can get information right here. Here's the GPS lat and longitude. So no surprise, we can actually see where this picture was taken, when, and where, and with what. So this could be, this information was, we don't know what the background of the image was. Well, this might help us figure out where it was. So pretty cool thing. A lot of information can be packed into these tools. These tools can be used to, get information from these images. So again, we don't know the background here. It looks like a pub. It's a Donkey Kong machine. But now we can use that information to actually pinpoint the location. So again, pretty cool way to extract information from a tool, from an artifact image. I keep saying tool. So again, we'll wrap it up here. Again, file analysis concepts, identification of the content, metadata they can extract from the content. A lot of different ways you can do this. You can do it with the use of like Autopsy, Deft has this tool. DFF has a good way to pull this information out also. Hexadecimal information. This might display the file type if you're not sure what it is. There's no extension. This sort of file signature helps you identify what it is, and then from that you can go further and then say, okay, it's a SQLite database. What can I pull from it? Is there metadata I can get from this? In the case of SQLite database, probably not too much besides the file access date and times. But then open it in the SQLite browser, and we can actually browse, as we saw, browse the database. Or if we say it's a JPEG image, well, we can use EXIF data. Can we extract any EXIF data from that image, showing us where it was taken, with what, and any possible GPS information. So again, we're going to revisit file examination throughout the course here, again and again. But this is a quick just example of how you can use Autopsy to start this process. Hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.